I recently came across some discussions on social media about the name of Eve or Hawa, whether this was her true name or was it Hawa, her true name. So what is it? What do you think? What was this ancestor's true name? We will call her Queen Mother Hawa or Queen Mother Eve. What was her name? I am Ewe, as you know, and here on this channel, we always look at the scripture with our Ewe Language glasses. And as you know, we are the people of the Kingdom of Judah in West Africa, as illustrated on the 1747 map by the cartographer Emmanuel Bowen, and also prior to that by the Portuguese. We are in Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria, and our DNA shows percentages from these four countries predominantly. We are also found in countries like La Côte d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso, not to mention the diaspora widely. The people who were primarily targeted and trafficked during the transatlantic slave trade were Ewe people. Our language, Ewe, is the ancient Hebrew language, and I have proven it here time and time again, and I have also provided witnesses and evidences from sources other than myself. Recently, I posted two elders speaking specifically on this. One of them is the Akan elder Osmafo Benyamin, whose native language is actually Twi. He is not Ewe, and he was saying the same thing, that the Ewe is the ancient Hebrew.
The two indigenous languages are language me. The Obabe chere ma de ka chere me. First and foremost, your friend Ewe. And no, and me no my translating into a Levitical language. A language communicatable with the gods. Sakasa no amon petie no. Well, and nothing at the bia o ka say munue mo amofre papa se bone na mofre bone so se papa. Sakasa na mon pese motie no. Sakasa na ebinum kura omo language no they don't want to talk. Omo pese omo kasa akasa. But me catch on ne say sakasa no aye tetifo kasa no. And no and an vibration no aye connected to the spiritual realms. Me nya ibeni, but me can okra kira man for no muntie ni ye. Say, sa language was the beginning.
And I also posted one where Pastor Obed Obeng Ade said the same thing. And he also is not Ewe. He is Akan as well. And he witnesses after his studies and his knowledge of the Ewe language, that's the Ewe language is the purest form of ancient Hebrew.
The true original language is hidden in Ghana with the Ewes.
The true original language is hidden in Ghana with the Ewes.
Pure, straight to the point. The one that we are saying is Hebrew is not the true one. Okay. The purest of Hebrew is the ones that the Ewe speak. They are the only nation that still refer to themselves as Ewes or Ebers. Okay. It is out of their stock, when you listen to their language, it is out of their stock that all the other languages gain their identity from.
Okay. Today's topic is about Queen Mother Hawa, Genesis 3:20. And it says, Adam named his wife Hawa because she was the mother of all living. The wording might be slightly different depending on whatever translation you're using. Often, in most of the translations in the English language, it'll have a footnote that'll tell you that the name that is used for the woman, which is in some translation written as Hawa, in other translations written as Eve, probably means living. Probably means living. The meaning given to the woman, to this ancestor, Queen Mother Hawa, in the Strong's Concordance is living being. And this is an assumed meaning. It is not a known fact backed by evidence. And I say this because this meaning given to it is based on the Aramaic language, which Arabic derives from Aramaic. So you will find a lot of seemingly Arabic words in the scripture because the scripture, the text was translated into Aramaic. looking at it from that perspective, in the face of a name like Hawa, which means living in Aramaic, the only thing to do as far as a translator is to go ahead and assign that meaning to the name. Hence, her name is translated as living being. And as I always say, the scriptures were translated. The names were mostly transliterated, but at times, translators, editors, publishers are assigning meanings to transliterated names. That is why sometimes the meanings ascribed to certain names in the scriptures do not match the culture. A classic example is the name of Caleb, whom I call Kalevi, and others may call Kaleto, which just means brave or courageous person in ancient Hebrew. That name is translated as dog based on the Aramaic language, because in Aramaic and Arabic, Kalev is a dog. So translating transliterated names into a language in the absence of the original language of the transliterated name can cause this cultural mismatch. It is counterculture for Kalevi to be called dog. The ancient Hebraic people did not name their children any derogatory names. Contrary to other cultures, it would be a derogatory name for a human being to be called a dog. Okay. And also, if we look at it in the perspective of the oral tradition, if this name had come about in the oral tradition, which is most likely did, the name of this ancestor that is called, is popularly known as Caleb or Caleb, it's most likely derived from the oral tradition. That is why it would mean courageous person, which is what it means in Eveba. Because in the oral tradition, in telling the oral tradition, the ancestors very intelligently packaged the characteristics of these personalities into names, their characteristics and the events that happened in their lifetime. And because Caleb was a hero in the story, his name would have never had a pejorative connotation. It would always be something glorifying. This is how oral tradition works. Had he changed his trajectory in the story and become the villain, then his name may have taken on those features where he would be portrayed as a villain through his name. But no, he was a hero in his story, so his name would have always had a heroic meaning to it. That is oral tradition. That is African Hebraic oral storytelling. So these names, it's very important that they stay transliterated. And the error happens when they're being forcefully translated into another language. So that is what we're seeing also here with the name of Queen Mother Hawa, her name being translated into living being, and it being said that because she was the mother of all living. And truth be told, was she really the mother of all living? When we read the accounts in Genesis, it is very clear that there are some beings or there are some people whom she did not give birth to. So for example, the person or the people whom Cain was afraid of, that they might kill him, and the woman whom Cain married, ancestor or Queen Mother Hawa, did not give birth to those individuals. So we cannot say she was the mother of all living. We can say she was the mother of the generations of Adam or Edim. So yes, I am validating that her name is Hawa, and this is proven by its meaning in Ebegbe. It means made from the side or the rib, made from the rib. It is written as Hawa. That is H, the X represents a H in the modern Ewe alphabet, which is based on Latin. This alphabet system was made by Europeans in order for them to be able to learn our African Hebraic languages. So you'll find most of the African Hebraic languages in sub-Saharan Africa have a Latin-based alphabet. And this was mostly the doing of Westerman. That is the name of the man who labored on writing our languages using the Latin alphabet. It had to be the Latin because the new Germanic languages like English, French, and the likes, they lack a lot of the phonetic pronunciations that we have in our African Hebraic languages. A classic example is the ch. So in the alphabet, of the Latin alphabet, the ch, the X represents a ch. Okay, so her name is written H, A, W, A. That is Xawa in our ever modern Latin alphabet. And it is pronounced Hawa, Hawa. All right. Now, this X, which makes the H, obviously is the same phonetic as the Chet in the Masoretic alphabet, which is the Chet. And that to make that sound, it is actually a palatal hissing sound. That's a palatal hissing sound. Genesis 2 verse 22 says, "Then the Most High Yah made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to the man." Why does the biblical Hebrew, or let me just say biblical Ewe, call her Hawa, and the European translations call her Eve? What is the etymology of the name Eve? They say that it is derived from Hawa. Did you know that? They say that the name Eve is derived from Hawa, but they really don't know. Looking at it on the online etymology dictionary, it says it's a feminine proper name, biblical first woman, late Latin from Hebrew Semitic, Hawa, literally a living being. And when they say Hebrew Semitic, it is in reference to Aramaic Hebrew, because you have to remember the Arameans were making exploits near and around 700 BC. Aramaic was the lingua franca in the ancient Near East around 700 BC and later. Okay, so when they say Hebrew, it's biblical Hebrew, it is mostly derived from Aramaic. It is not purely Abugba, but what is purely Abugba is mostly the names. Although there are words within the Aramaic that do have similar meaning in Abugba. It says literally a living being, from base, Hawa, he lived. Compare Arabic Haya, Aramaic Hayin. And remember, I told you Arabic derives from Aramaic. Like most of the explanations of names in Genesis, this is probably based on folk etymology or an imaginative playing with sound. In the Hebrew here, the phonetic similarity is between Hawa, Eve, and the verb root, Haya, to live, and that is from Arabic, right? It has been proposed that Eve's name conceals very different origins, for it sounds suspiciously like the Aramaic word for serpent. Now they're going too far. We know that Hawa is given a meaning to mean living being based on the Aramaic language, which was lingua franca, kind of like how English is the lingua franca of today, where English is spoken pretty much everywhere. So in those days, in their known world, in the ancient Near East, around the time of the 700s BC and later, Aramaic would have been the lingua franca. However, Eve does derive from Hawa is what they're telling us, that it comes from Hawa, and that is based on the spelling of Hawa, which is Chet Vav He. Remember, we talked about the Ch, right? So it's Ch, W, H. And the He, which is an H, it typically represents a vowel. Most cases, it is an A or an E. And in this case, it represents an A. And so what they're telling us is the Ch is representing an E for in the name of that is Eve. The W, which is the Vav, is representing a V, which it does double as that. And then the He is representing an E as well. But when we examine the name in Evagba, we see that it is the same as what we call the number 2. EVE is pronounced av, or eve, and that just means 2. Being that Hawa was the second human to be made by the Most High Yah, we can infer that the name Ewe was coined later during the retelling of the oral histories and bestowed upon her for this rank in history of being the second. Genesis 2:23 says, "And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man." The word translated to woman is asi, or ase, or asa, which is Aleph, Shin, He. It is often pronounced as Isha. Asi has a meaning in Ewe, in Ewe ancient Hebrew. What do you think it means in Ewe ancient Hebrew? Adam is referring to his Hawa as wife. Asi means wife in Ewe ancient Hebrew. So when it says, "She shall be called woman," he is saying she shall be called wife. Not just a woman, but his Asi, his wife. Genesis 2:23. And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called Asi," that is wife, because she was taken out of man. The one who was made from Adam's rib, Hawa, was the second human made. She was Ewe, and she was his wife, Asi. Akpena mawuga mawu aya. We thank the Most High Yah. Share and subscribe to this channel for more.